Hello everyone, we are another nerdy couple, and in today's video, we are discussing the penultimate episode of The Mandalorian. And boy was it an episode. What happened?
I said I'm stuck.
You got stuck?
Because I was like...
And there's nowhere to go from there. Anyway, so let's start with our... You're still stuck. With our initial reactions to the episode.
So now you just lowered it by saying that it's the penultimate. Because...
How's that?
I gave this episode an 8.
Okay.
I think it was pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it for sure. And, it was good. And there's some good little juicies in there. We'll tell you about them.
We'll get into it.
We'll get into it.
Yes.
But I think it was an 8, you know?
Yeah.
I was I finished it and I go, 8.
Mm-hmm. 8.
But knowing that it's a penultimate, meaning that there's only one more, it's whoa, I should have had more meat in this. Why wasn't it more meaty? How is so much going to happen in this next episode when this episode wasn't meaty enough?
Yeah, man, I don't know.
It was not meaty enough.
I don't know. And I don't know what's going to I don't know what's going to happen in the next episode. And I'm pretty sure it's the second to last episode because it's the 7th episode and the last season was 8 episodes, and I assume that this one will also be 8.
We should have done research because probably, maybe not, you know?
It's fine, 8 episodes. It's
We're only going to review 8.
Come on. After that, we're done. But I will say that for the first time this season, I scored it lower than you did.
Yeah, I looked over, I saw your paper, my eyes literally ooh, you probably saw it.
It's a 7 out of 10. Just a 7, just a straight 7, and it was because I did have that frame of mind watching the episode that I was like, this is I understand that we had to find a way to find Moff Gideon.
Yeah.
So I don't know what else they would have done, but just I don't know. So I guess I hope that the next episode starts with just us rolling up on our boy Moff and then just a whole 45 minutes of smacking each other around.
Yeah. I hope it's a longer episode.
Yeah.
I think that's been a really big complaint of a lot of people this season is that the episodes are just so short.
Yeah. And they were short last season too. But
yeah.
It's just you just want more.
Yeah, it's this show is so good.
Right.
You want more and you can do more because it's not on TV. You don't have these time constraints of you have a 30-minute block, you have an hour block, and you need commercials.
Yeah. Oh, what happened? We're having an absence seizure here. All right.
I had to sneeze.
You had to, but it didn't happen.
So yeah, I think that the episodes being so short was really a hindrance, and we just want more.
Yeah, but so let's just get into what happened this episode.
Spoilers. Pretend that spoilers are popping up right now.
Yeah, they're not going to be. Yeah, I'm glad that we chose right now the 7th episode to start our episode saying spoiler. But
yeah,
I mean, it's on the thumbnail, but
all of them have lots of spoilers.
So the episode starts out with our boy Mayfeld, right, in his little prison planet.
Rewind to the recap of this episode.
Okay. And
I was like, oh, I know who Mayfeld is.
Yeah.
I remember this guy now. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Carry on. For those of you that were like me, that were like, who is this guy? Watch the recap.
Right. So, we get there. We see him just doing stuff with scrap metal, whatever. And we're like, all right. And I was personally expecting oh, we're going to break him out. We're going to have to sneak him out or something. And Cara Dune just rolls up yeah, he's mine now. And the robot's like, boy, you better go. Threatens him with the electric saber or whatever. And he's like, all right, bro, I'm going. And the whole time he's like, yo, where are you taking me? And she's just not saying a word because fundamentally, she does not like him. He's an Imperial. She's a rebel.
Yeah. And also too,
he was a boy, she was a girl.
That make it any more obvious? She couldn't say anything.
Right.
Because, like, she couldn't reveal what the plan was to all these people. You know, like, this still was an escape mission, even though she tried, you know, to do it by the books as much as she could. But she did say, like, she had to bend a lot of rules to get here.
Exactly.
And so I think, like, even just saying, like, what was going on would have been, like, a red flag to, like, the other prisoners and, like, the robots.
Yeah.
So.
And I will say, when we get him back to the ship onto Slave One, I was so hyped just to see Boba Fett walk out because his armor was looking clean. He took some care for that armor and it looked nice. Like, I was like, yo, this man is back, you know?
Yeah.
And it's funny because now Mayfeld looks at him like, oh, I thought you were someone else, you know? Like, oh, I was almost worried. And then Mando just pops out. He's like, what up?
You thought it was me? Well, guess what it is? Yeah, I thought that scene was hilarious. And, like, Brian was talking about, like, how he liked it because of the armor and stuff. And I was like, no. I loved it because it was so funny.
No, it was funny.
Like, he comes out and he's like, oof, I thought you were the other guy.
Right.
And then, you know, it is the other guy. And it's like, ah.
Exactly. So we get him and we tell him why we need him because we need your access with stuff and, you know, to get to a computer to find out where Moff Gideon is. And so Mayfeld's like, listen, the only place that I can think of off the top of my head that has such computer is Morak, a planet. And we're just going to have to get into their base. And they're like, well, there's no base there. And he's like, no, trust me, there's a base, right? So we go to Morak. And Morak is used to mine Rhydonium.
Yeah, adamantium.
Yeah, totally. If adamantium exploded.
Vibranium?
Neither one of those explode.
Okay, well, those are the only amnemiums I know, all right?
Yeah. Well, this is the third one.
I don't remember it.
It's Rhydonium. Anyway, and this element, as I just said, is highly explosive, right?
Yeah.
So the plan is we have to hijack one of the transports, get into it, and get into the base, and then access the computer. And there's an issue though, in that.
Just a yawn this time.
Yeah, it's just a yawn this time. There was an issue in that, you know, in order to gain entry or something like that, you had to be scanned, and that if you were wanted by a certain people, that you can't get in.
Yeah, the ISP.
Yeah, something like that. And everyone else was wanted, and Boba Fett had the best line. He's like, I think they might recognize my face.
I love that. Oh, no, I didn't write it down. I thought I wrote it down. But I thought that was so funny because, like, I'm sorry, I'm yelling. Because, so, like, Cara obviously can't go in because she's, like, from the rebellion and whatever. So they will know who she is.
Right.
And then Finnick was like, oh, yeah, I'm wanted by them, too. And then he's like, oh, yeah, they'll know who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, half of them look like you. I don't know if half of them still look like
probably
you. But
not. But, you know, there's still some remnants, maybe.
yeah, and, like, people
Yeah,
recognize
they
them.
would know.
Yeah, exactly. And I just thought that was so funny. And then we're like, oh, shoot, like, who's going to go in? And I was
Right.
like, oh, I don't trust this guy. I don't like this. I don't like Mayfeld being like, I'm going in by, is it Mayfeld?
Yeah, it's Mayfeld.
Going in by himself. Like, this does not seem like a good plan. He's like, I'm going, Mando.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how?
Like,
He's like,
excuse me.
I'm going. And we're like,
Okay. Right. So the next scene is we're ambushing the transport ship car that's rolling through, and Cara Dune, she smacks their heads together, knocks them around and all that, and, you know, just makes very quick work of them. And then, you know, our dudes are like, okay, we're figuring out, like, how we're gonna go in, and Mando's like, just let me change real quick, let me do an outfit change, and I will, you know, I'll go in with you.
Yeah.
And then so they do that, and Mando's wearing his Imperial gear now, and, like, they're kind of, like, making fun of him, like, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
And while they're in the car, they start having a conversation, and Mayfeld's bringing up some great points. He was like, well, before, you know, when I first met you, you said you can't take off your helmet, but you just took off your helmet. So what's the rule? Is it that you can't see your face? I've never heard that before.
Yeah, is it I can't see your face or you can't take off your helmet?
Right.
Like, what's the rule? If things are convenient to you, it
Right.
changes when you need them to.
Yeah, and I think
very...
yeah, and I think it's funny because, like, in that moment, he was kind of embodying like some of the the questions that would be asked by us, by the audience, of being like, so when, like, what's the deal, you know?
Yeah.
So I like that they put that in the show, that like the show is confronting that.
Yeah. I think though
Those questions.
something I really liked is that I don't think other Mandalorians would be okay with what he did.
Yeah, I don't.
I think that he was just like, I need to save my kid.
Right.
I'm doing whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Who cares about the Mandalorian code?
Mm-hmm.
I need to save my Grogu.
Exactly. And I think that part of the reason that he had this kind of like ability to leave it behind is because of his interactions with Bo-Katan. Mm-hmm. Because A, she was not wearing her helmet, right?
Yeah.
And B, she made a promise to him and she changed the promise. So he's like, other Mandalorians also, like, some of my friends might not like that I did this, but other ones wouldn't even bat an eye, you know?
Yeah.
So like, where do I fall in this? And in their conversation, Mayfeld said something that I wrote down.
Ooh.
Everyone's got their lines they don't cross until things get messy. And as soon as he said that, I knew that his face is going to be revealed one way or another. And so, you know, after that conversation, well, in the middle of that conversation, it gets kind of broken up by another transport ship being attacked by pirates. And it gets blown up. And now they start getting worried, right? Mm-hmm. Because we got the same thing in the back of our car, and they're going to come for us next. And they do. The pirates are coming now, and they are trying to open up the hatch and throw a grenade in there, right? So Mando's like, I got this, you know, let me handle this. So he starts shooting at them, and Mayfeld's like, I don't think you should be shooting, man.
It's like, oh.
Right? And Mando's like, I got this, right? So he starts shooting at him, and he missed his first couple shots, and I was like, is this because you're wearing Stormtrooper armor? Like, what's the deal? Is it like -10 accuracy when you wear that?
It is.
But then he starts actually hitting his shots. He hits somebody in midair as they're jumping. I was like, nice, all right? You're not like the other Stormtroopers,
nice.
Right?
You're not like the other guys.
Right? So now he's fighting these pirates, and I thought that over the course of this fight, his face was going to be revealed.
Oh, yeah, because when his shoulder broke, we were like, ooh, they're going to punch him in the face. Yeah. It's going to break. Like, this is it. He's going to get revealed, and there's not going to be, like, another helmet. Like, we're just going to be, like, face in the wind.
Yeah, because they hit him with a stick, and it broke his armor. And then, like, they punched him in the face, and they, like, grabbed his head, and, like, it looked like they were trying to take his helmet off. So I was like, this is going to happen. But it did not. And Mando fends them off, and he throws their grenades back and all that. But then they're like, all right, bro, you want to throw our grenades back at us? Check it out. And you just see, like, 50 of them just, like,
they arm
their grenades.
Yeah. You know, but they haven't thrown
and they're just, like, waiting. They're cooking the grenade. They're just waiting for just the right moment to throw it at them so he can't do anything about it. But then some TIE fighters swoop in.
Never thought you'd be happy to see stormtroopers.
Yeah. And I never thought I would. But I was.
They come out and they're coming out the sides. And I was like, yes!
I know.
Yes!
I know. I see the TIE fighters go, oh, yeah! My boys!
And it's like, no, those aren't your boys.
Right?
But like,
it's the enemy.
This is, and it's so funny. I was thinking about it and I was like, wow, it's so ironic how they're like trying to keep the bad people from coming in and blowing up the stuff.
Yeah.
And you're literally letting enemies into your camp and you're praising them and like saluting and clapping and like, enemies. But like they don't know.
And they're cheering because we learned later that they were the only car to make it to base that day. Yeah. They're the only ones. And along the trip you see all the exploded trucks that tried and failed to make this transport. But they get into the base and they see the computer. And Mayfeld is about to go in to the room where the computer is, but then he sees one of his old commanding officers. And he's like, I can't do it. Like, I'm not willing to take that risk, you know? And they have this back and forth, but then Mando is eventually like, fine, I'll do it. And Mayfeld warns him, he's like, listen, to access the computer, it needs to do a face scan. Yeah. And he's just like,
I will do it.
She's like, give me the thing, you know?
It's like, if you're not going in, I am going in, because someone's going in, and it's going to be me if you're going to be bad about it.
Yeah. And it is only Grogu that's on his mind right now.
Yeah, and like that's the same thing with earlier. He was like, I don't care what the cost is. I need to save Grogu.
Exactly. And over the course of that episode, like it's not like hitting you in the face at like, oh man, he's doing this all for Grogu, because like he's doing it like it's the mission that he's doing, you know, like it's kind of on the back of your mind that it's for Grogu. And I'm kind of happy that they don't like that one of his lines was like, I need to do this for the child, you know, like it's just like that's just his internal motivation, you know.
Yeah,
and it's really coming out, and very strongly. So he gets to the computer and he tries to leave his helmet on for the face scan, but then it starts with like, you know, error 10 9.
Yeah, it starts counting down and we're like, dude, just take it off, like come on.
So he takes it off and then it does a scan. It's like scan complete, and you know he's like working on the computer now. He's trying to find those coordinates from Moff Gideon. And then
the other guy from across the room, he's like, Trooper?
Right?
Trooper!
Yeah.
And we're just like, go quick.
He's like, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
And then he asks him, what's your designation, right? And he's like, transport. He's like, no, what's your TK number? What's your designation? And he's like,
yeah.
And Mayfeld runs in. He's like, TK 539 and 111, you know, whatever.
Yeah, he comes in, he swoops in, he says all the right things.
Right.
And he's like, oh yeah, he's deaf because of an explosion or something. I was like, yes.
And then the other guy's like, officer.
What is your name?
Right. And then he's still just there like, we call him Brown Eyes.
And I love it too, because Mayfeld has obviously never seen his eyes. Yeah. And to like do that little job, like, oh yeah, we call him Brown Eyes.
Mayfeld is an expert smooth talker on the fly. And I don't think that Mando is, because of who he is, he sticks out, right? Because of the gear that he wears, he sticks out, and he is very different than everybody else. And he's kind of used to that. And like, he's not used to his facial expressions like meaning anything, because it's all behind. And
like, he's never really gone undercover.
Right.
Like, that's not something you can do as a Mandalorian. You know, you're wearing your whole thing.
Right.
And so like, this was really cool to see, like, no, he sucks at this.
Yeah, because he's good at sneaking around, but if he gets caught, he's not afraid to just go guns blazing, because he can get out of it. Yeah. But this is not a situation where he can just be like, you know what, I think I'll just blow everybody up right now.
Yeah. And like, he doesn't have his armor, he doesn't have his weapons. Like, when he got out of his suit, I was like, oh god, he's going in without his gadgets. Like, how are we gonna do this?
And when he was fighting the pirates, it was very clear that he was not used to not having his armor, because he went to block the attack and the armor broke, and now he's in pain. Yeah. You know, so it was like he kind of like realized, like, oh, I need to fight better than I do recently.
Yeah. Than I've had to.
Right, because I'm not impervious right now, as I am with my Beskar steel armor.
Yeah, for sure. And so going back to the scene, right? So he is talking his way out of this, and then he's like, oh, you guys are the ones that brought back the stuff. Great, let's have a drink.
Exactly.
Right? And so they're having the drink, and this guy's talking, and this guy is so annoying. Right. And he's talking about like, oh yes, people just want order, and no one wants freedom, and I'm Empire, I suck. You know? And this guy's getting heated. Mayfeld is like, I can't listen to this guy who literally got all of my friends. I'm sorry, that maybe made noise. All of my friends and all my guys killed. Like, you are the worst. Right?
And this whole time, Mando is just sitting there like, he's like, it's like when you're over at a friend's house and they start arguing with their parents, and you're just sitting there like, I would like to leave.
Right? And I'm sure he also had this like back of the mind of like, everyone can see my face. My face is out. This is against everything that I know. Because he couldn't just like put his helmet back on afterwards.
They're having drinks, and you know.
Yeah, and like that's a weird move, you know?
Yeah.
And so
you can just see like, as the conversation goes, Mayfeld's face, like he's just like
holding
it in, but he's about to burst.
Yeah.
You know?
And so Then he does it. He bursts. He shoots the guy. And then he shoots the other guy and the other guy. And everybody's getting shot. And Mando's like, boom, boom, boom. We're killing them. All right. This is what I'm used to. Yeah. Right? And then they kill everybody in the room. And Mayfeld hands him a helmet. Mm-hmm. And I love what he said. He goes, you did what you had to do. I never saw your face.
Right.
And I was like, yes. Mm-hmm. Like, thank you so much. Because going into this episode at the beginning, you're like, oh, this guy is a slime ball. Like, we do not like this guy. Yeah. Talking about Mayfeld, you know? And, like, now he's doing this thing, and you're just like, oh,
yeah. Yes. It was nice. It was nice.
And so he does that. And, like, you're also like, oh, well, we killed everybody in the room, so no one's seen his face now, exactly. You know? Like, the only person that's ever seen his face is Mayfeld, and he promises not to have seen his face, you know?
Right.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And so, you know, now more stormtroopers are coming to the room to try and, you know, deal, because, like, they just hear shooting. They're like, what's going on? And, you know, they're back against the window, and they both just kick out the window panel, and they start backing out. And I'm like, okay, now what? Like, we're on the edge of a cliff. I'm like, what's the deal? And then as soon as one stormtrooper tries to come out, boop, sniped. Fennec and Cara Dune are just sitting there waiting. I was like, beautiful.
Yeah, I don't remember who was the one that pointed it out, but one of them was like, oh, halfway up the east wall, you know, or whatever it was, and located, boom, boom, you know? Yeah. And then they, like, started following them up and, like, shooting everybody, and I was like, yes! Yeah. And they call in Boba, and they're like, go pick them up, it's time!
Right. And then, you know, Boba gets there, and then they're running, they jump onto the ship, and as the ship is flying away, Mayfeld's like, give me the cycling rifle. And Mando's like, all right, here you go. And he just absolutely sees like an open panel on one of the ships with the Rhydonium, and he absolutely sniped it. And as I was writing it down on my paper, Cara Dune said, nice shot. Like, I literally have it written down right here.
He does.
And I was like, yeah, it was a nice shot. And for Cara Dune to acknowledge that, because he blew up the entire base.
Yeah, he blew up everything. And I was like, yes. And so when he was shooting up everybody, I was like, oh, he's going to blow this whole place up. But then I was like, should he? Because then he's killing all these people that are like him. Like, there are stormtroopers and stuff that aren't in it 100%. Like, yes, you have those, like, leaders there, too.
Yeah.
But, like, those guys could just as easily have been someone that you trained with or someone that, you know.
Right.
Yeah. Was at that same kind of commitment level that you were once upon a time. And so I was like, okay, I love it that you blew it up because, yes. But also, like, isn't that a little hypocritical?
I mean, you know, I think he was just overtaken by emotion because of his 100%. Conversation that he had with the guy, that he was like, man, I hate the Empire right now.
And he had said something like the guy when they were talking, they were like, oh, this is going to be used to do all of this. Like, because you guys brought this back, we can do all this bad stuff.
Exactly.
And then he was like, oh, no.
I don't want to be part of that.
Yeah. And so he even, like, said something to the extent of, like, oh, I needed to clear my chest or whatever.
Yeah, I had to get that off my chest. And so, you know, now they rendezvous back with Cara Dune and Fennec, and Mayfeld's like, all right, you know, mission's over, take me back to wherever I was. And Cara Dune's like, it's too bad that Mayfeld died, huh? and Mando's like, yeah, too bad. And Mayfeld's there like, are they gonna kill me?
Yeah, he's like, what's going on? And then she was like, yeah, it's so sad that he didn't make it out of this thing, you know?
Yeah, prisoner 34667 didn't make it out.
Didn't make it out, yeah. And then he's like, I'm just gonna go. Like, does this mean I can go? and then Mando, like, get out of here, dude, you know? And then, like, he's like, he's backing up, and then they, like, turn and look at him, and he's like,
I can.
Am I still good? Right? And, like, she smiles or whatever, and I'm like, yes, that's so sweet.
Right. So now we're back on Slave 1, and they ask him, do we have the coordinates? And he's like, we got them. So now we cut to Moff Gideon's ship. And this scene was 20 out of 10. This last scene was
best.
just
They do really
incredible.
good post-credit scenes because they work for
It wasn't
Disney.
post-credit,
But you know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about? Like
right.
that last
that last scene that
like,
sticks
okay,
with you.
episode's over.
This
Here's
is
another
what,
one.
Right. Here's
you know?
what's happening in the next one.
Yeah.
And Mando quotes Moff Gideon word for word. He was like, "You don't even know what you have."
Yeah.
And
you have something that I want, and you don't know what it has, and you don't know what it means to me,
Right.
and blah, blah, blah. And I'm
And
like, yes!
It was the most menacing yet sweetest threat I ever heard. Because, it was menacing to Moff Gideon, but, like, in the back of your mind, he's like, you don't know how much that kid means to me.
Right?
And I was like, stop, bro. Like,
this whole episode, I was like, yes, Mando the dad is really
Exactly.
coming through.
Yeah.
Like, he loves that kid.
Yeah.
He loves Grogu. And, like, I don't even think that he knows it, you know? Because,
Right.
like, Grogu was such a mission for such a long
Yeah.
time. Like, oh, I need to get him back to the Jedi. I need to
Exactly.
get him back to his family. And, like, he's starting to realize, like, no, I love this kid. I am his family.
Right. And something that we'll probably talk about in our entire season review is how much Mando has changed. Because in season 1, as a bounty hunter, you have to have a level of cold-heartedness, and that, like, you don't get attached to anything or anyone because they're just a job for you. They're just credits. But he really does love Grogu at this point. And I cannot wait to see how it ends this season,
Yeah.
And I don't know what I hope, because the half of me hopes that we can get Grogu back because I want to see them, back and be buddies again. But, I wouldn't be upset if somehow, they send Grogu away last minute and someone else is with them, so it kind of like leads into season 3 that we still have the mission to get Grogu back, And I think that if they do use Grogu for that Supreme Leader Snoke type thing, they have to have him for an amount of time, if that's how it ties into everything else. But if not, then,
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I mean, talking about this episode, I do feel a little bit better about it. Like, there were a lot of good aspects to it.
Yeah.
So I could go up to an 8. Yeah. But I mean, if I really compare it to all the other episodes that we've had this season, I think 7 is appropriate for it.
Yeah. And with a lot of what we've said, I think it makes sense that I like it more because I love Mando the dad.
Yeah.
And you love Mando the crime fighter.
He's not a crime fighter.
But I mean, like, like
Mando the Menace.
The shooting and the fighting and like all
the
of that stuff. The gunslinger. Thank you. And we really got more of Dad Mando this time and not so much like fighting and stuff because there was action, but he wasn't in his suit.
Yeah.
So you didn't get to see all the gadgets and him at like really full speed.
No knee rockets.
Where he's just like, where he's just like, not getting affected at all. Like it was different.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the action-packed episode that you like, but it was very much the story and the heart that I love.
Heart and soul. Good heart and
so
soul.
I think definitely my 8 stands. I thought I was going to go down when I realized, like, oh, we're so close. But I think this was good, and I loved
It was a good episode.
I loved getting to see his heart, you know?
And one thing that I do want to address is that a 7 out of 10 on a Mandalorian episode, like this episode is still better than most of anything you would see on a regular TV
100%.
show,
So good.
So it's not like it's 70% of a good show. It's like it's a good it's a good episode.
Yeah,
it's
just
a good in comparison.
Show. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Oh, one last note that I wrote down. I love Boba's voice.
Oh yeah, I could listen to him talk all day.
Wow.
All
so
day.
Good. All right. With that being said, I hope you liked this episode. If you did, make sure to give us a like. Drop down in the comments what your rating for this episode was. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.